Welcome, everyone. My name is Marina Antunes, Festival Director for Spark Animation and President of Vancouver ACM SIGGRAPH. Welcome to this presentation in our Meet the Filmmakers series. Very excited to be here with Bret Parker, the director of Pete. Hi, Bret.
Hi.
So I wanted to start, before we talk about the movie specifically, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, your animation career, because you've been in the industry for a long time. Did you always know that you wanted to be an animator?
I didn't. In fact, I have a very well, everyone has a unique path, right? But I actually I started at Pixar as a production assistant, never thinking about animation in terms of a career. I always loved animation, but I grew up dancing and in sort of more studying dance, performance art, film also, but then once I got here, I realized how much animation made sense to me. It's like the timing and choreography. What I didn't know were like the specific, rules of animation. So I was here about a year as a production in production, a PA and coordinator. And they came to me and they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be an animator. And I think that really wasn't what they were thinking. But they were really supportive. And I started to just stay late and learn, the rules of the principles of animation. And there were animators that sort of mentored me, and I put together a reel. And then on A Bug's Life, Pete Doctor looked at my reel, which thank God it was on like VHS that you can't play anymore because I'm sure it's terrible. But Pete Doctor hired me as the very first fix animator that we had on A Bug's Life. And from there, I sort of just worked my way up. So yeah, no, it was completely, the career found me.
I love it. And you've had a number of different roles at Pixar. You've worked both on the technical side and the artistic side. How important is that flexibility to staying creative?
For me, I love it because it's exercising sort of two sides of my brain, and I'm really thinking about things in a really different way when you're thinking about like the software and how you want to use the software in order to create your craft, right? Versus then you just trying to forget about the fact that you're even using software and being in the moment of creating. So it's really two different things. And one of the things I loved about being a user that then is trying to design software is that you really know how you want to work and you want the tools to be seamless. I feel like so often, right, we end up fighting the tools that we're using. So it's been really fun.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about Pete, this lovely film that was selected to Spark. Where did the idea for Pete start?
So it is a true story. It's a moment in time in my wife's life as a child. So it happened to her. And she tells stories all the time. We have a whole series of PD tales we want to tell. In fact, she's a great storyteller. And I think for me, this just resonated because it feels so about what's happening in terms of gender identity in the world, in the United States for sure, but in the world right now. And as sort of a story also that I feel like is accessible and is one that people can see and realize this isn't just because we have pronouns and we can discuss gender identity today doesn't mean that it's only happening now, that people have been in the world and the society forever who didn't fit within the definition of maybe their pronoun or their name at the time. And there didn't used to be language to talk about it. So I feel like film and animation in particular makes this a very accessible way to tell the story and tell her story.
That's amazing. I love this concept that there's these little Pete tales that are going to be coming down the pike, all of them a little bit different with this little character. So what, you talk a little bit about how this particular story was the one that resonated at the moment, but when did you first hear it? And was there always this concept to maybe turn these into little movies, or?
No, I don't know. That's a great question. Yeah, what was the final impetus to turn it into a movie? I guess I'm not sure. I fell in love with the, part of it, I don't know. I don't know. There was something about this story in particular that resonated. Through the cooperative that we have at Pixar, I directed a film a few years ago. Pete and I worked on it together. And then I fell in love with doing that and this process, and really wanted to bring this story to life as a director, and also to be able to play with the look and the feel of it and marry those two things together. So just felt like a really timely tale to tell.
Well, actually, the look and feel of the movie is one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because it has a very unique look and it almost feels soft isn't really the right word, but there's like this dreamlike quality to it in places. Can you talk a little bit about like the process to one, designing the character, and then the look of the feel of the film, which has like a very unique just sort of feel to it?
So I was really inspired by Winnie the Pooh and the ink and watercolor. And that to me is also of the time period when this is happening. We grew up with Winnie the Pooh on our bedside tables, right? So it's of that period. And then wanting to be able to really marry that look with the stylization of the animation as well. So the character design, Tom Gately did the character design, and he's phenomenal. And then it was really fun to be able to kind of bring that to life. And we tried to simplify the animation into a more 2D style as well, so that it all sort of works together. Yeah, so Calvin and Hobbes was a great inspiration as well. Some of his watercolors are just fantastic, and you forget, because I grew up with those comics too, right? But his watercolors, they're just so amazing when you start looking at that detail.
It's amazing the things we ingest as kids that don't really, they seem so innocuous and just this thing that you're, into, and then all of a sudden it becomes this very important part of your life and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, I still have stacks of Calvin and Hobbes like that. My sister and I would laugh and read through for hours.
um, every film has its challenges. What were the challenges of making Pete?
Oh, wow. Well, for starters, as a cooperative, every single person who has worked on the film has done it all volunteer and all while working a full-time job. So that in of itself, and to have, a very, very shoestring to no budget to make it without the people volunteering their time, we never would have been able to do it. So that was one. And it always just amazes me what people are willing to do and how generous people are. And then, to be honest, the technical difficulty of trying to get this look, and we were just experimenting, and it was nothing that anyone had ever done before, and it took a lot of just collaboration and figuring that out. And I feel like we did. There's more. We wanted to go further actually with it. We were discovering things up into the last minute, and I feel like with the rest of P Details, we'll be able to maybe even take it further, but we were really happy with where we landed.
That's awesome. So from the time that, you sort of had this idea that you were going to make this film to the time the film was actually finished, what was that production period like?
So it was about exactly 2 years, maybe a year and a half to 2 years, which was pretty good considering. Like, I was actually pretty excited. I knew though it's really hard because there's some place of like there was a lot of energy around the film, and I knew, so I pushed hard to finish it when we did, because I knew that because everyone's volunteering and because there's like, you can't, it's harder almost like there's some balance there, right? Of like, okay, this is fun, but we really do have to finish this or else it just keeps going on and on forever. So, Yeah, so it was hard to finish it when we did, but we worked really hard to get it done this past spring. So yeah.
Talking about balancing, can you talk a little bit about, how you personally balance the, your personal life, other commitments, work, and then also making this film? What does that look like for you, like on a day-to-day basis?
It looks like a lot of late nights and weekends is what it looks like. But it's interesting because I found when you're really able, I love my job, and am lucky to be able to have a creative job as an animator at Pixar, but as a director of this film, it's completely my vision. And to be able to really see something that is 100% your vision up on the screen is really motivating. So I feel like it gives me energy to be able to work on projects like this, and with the amazing people I was working with too. So that allows that to happen. I couldn't do it with just any second job.
So you mentioned that there could be these other PD stories coming on the pike. Is there another one that we can be looking forward to rather soon, or?
I wouldn't say rather soon, but yes, there is another one that you can be looking forward to.
That's so awesome. You do so many things, and I wanted to also ask you about Art Farm, because I was looking at the website and I thought, wow, this is kind of amazing. Where did this concept come from?
It's been a bit now, and it started we've done a lot of different things with it, but basically as a creative space where maybe people can come together to create work. As a performance artist back in the day, I always collaborated with a lot of different people working on different projects, and so to be able to have a space or a company where we could collaborate with people to create work, and that work could shift over time. Like maybe now it's film, in the past it's been other things. So that's kind of where it came about.
That's awesome. What is it like working with your partner?
It's really good. I mean, we have, it can be trying as well, but it's been really, really fun. Just being able to partner in this in a creative project together. We both bring really different things to it. And it's so much fun to be able to constantly bounce ideas back and forth with each other. It was funny though when I was recording her, because she narrates it, and she would become emotional while she was recording, and she would stop talking, and so I would go, hey, I can do something with it. You just have to finish the sentence. If I never get the words, we can't do anything with it, but you have to finish the sentence. So
I'm assuming that, I mean, it's one thing to share the story with you and with maybe friends and family, but it's another thing to share it with the world too, right?
yeah, she realized that at our first festival, the first screening, and she was suddenly really self-conscious. She's like, I feel so exposed and vulnerable, right? It's very vulnerable to share your story out in the world. It's gotten such positive response that I think it's getting easier for her, but it is definitely a vulnerable space to be in.
Well, we thank her for sharing her story. We thank you for sharing the story. It's a sweet story, but it's also one that's so powerful in this very just approachable way. It's just so easy to watch. And then, you get to the end of it, you're like, wow, okay, that was really powerful. You don't even really realize it while you're watching it. So thank you so much for sharing that powerful and lovely film with us. It's been really wonderful. It's been wonderful to speak with you. Thank you so much for making the time.
Oh, thank you. This has been really fun.